Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Choppy Trade Group, and this is your end of day as well as end of week market recap for Friday, the 17th. And that concludes another week of May. That's the third week is down. Options expiration today, which kind of led to a choppy day. I think that's basically par for the course on these options expiration days. They're a little bit tough, and it's almost good to kind of go outside for a walk, I don't know, have a little bit of a liquid lunch on Fridays like this. They're just not it's just something that we've kind of noticed is that the options expiration days are very difficult to do anything than other just kind of stay the course with some positions. Although there was some things outside of options expiration today, the metals were really strong, and I'll go over some of those moves in this video with you. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. And a reminder for next week, you could please sign up for our trial, which is 50% off the first month of Tribeca Trade Group, and you'll get videos next week that will be based on open positions and a little bit more in depth into trading and strategy. So that's the plan for next week. Let's talk a little bit about those movers. Yes, the silver miners, gold miners, really big moves for those, for those that have been positioning into these, areas of the market, super strong. We've seen the strength in copper, and we've seen it in a couple other areas in commodities, and energy actually did pretty well today too, up 1.4%. Metals and mining up 1.9%. And yeah, a lot more, I would say, value today did better, but not, a huge amount. There was a couple things, I think, to the downside in that group too. But, interesting that sometimes what you see also on these options expirations, even though there was no index rebalancing or anything today, but, a little bit of a reversion to the mean. The semis, which were super strong a couple days this week, really underperformed. They were one of your worst groups throughout the course of the session. But again, you don't have to deal with options expiration on Monday. So we'll see where those chips fall on, how you like that bad joke. We'll see where the chips fall on for next week. Ultimately, I would say, even before I start to kind of look at some of the charts, one of the things that I have been talking about the last 2 days is, a little bit of a check back after, that really strong Wednesday's price action. Again, if you look at the, not going too in depth in terms of the economics, but I really don't think there was that many positives to take away from Wednesday's data, but that's just me. I still think inflation is pretty high. I just think they set the bar, whoever puts the expectations, just set them really high for where that inflation number was going to come in. So it's not to say that like inflation is defeated or anything like that. It just came in a little bit less than what the expectations were. And ultimately, it's the same thing with an earnings report. Expectations are the most important thing. Where those expectations are versus where the actual is important. All right, so let's get to a couple of the technicals. And I'll go through this rather quickly, because if you've been watching, some of my end of day videos, or if you've been getting my intraday notes, then this all too familiar of what I've been referring to. But, here is the big move on Wednesday. We got extended here, right? The RSI was a little bit extended. Also, the movement away from the 5-period moving average, which has been a really good, short-term indicator to watch. Kind of tells you a little bit about the trend, right? And just note that we got a little bit above here. So while we're kind of chopping back and forth the last 2 days, look at what this, look at the moving average. The 5-day moving average has now kind of caught up with the price. Remember back here, and I showed this, I think, in yesterday's video too, notice that these couple bars here got a little bit away from that 5-period moving average. And then we did the same thing here, sideways, up, sideways, up, sideways, what comes next? So, we don't know, of course, like this isn't predictive, but I'm just showing you where like it's a logical place for that we're going to resume the trend. And it's really nice to have the valuaries too, to basically say, hey, there's nothing wrong with the check back into the top of the value area. Many people, I think, will say, oh my God, we got rejected, and right at the breakout point, but we're just kind of backing and filling and coming right back in. And by the way, like this is a textbook way to use the value areas. And again, knowing where you have an idea, in terms of where you want to go long and versus where where it's not going to work. That's all about trading, right? Is knowing levels to say, okay, I'm going to try something, but I'm going to know exactly where that point is where it's not going to work, right? And that's basically right at this 52.95.75 level. But yes, this is a textbook way to trade with the value areas. Breakout, retest, and then continuation to the upside. That's what I would be looking for. Again, I'm not saying that happens on Monday, but I think overall, this setup is pretty clean here. And, that's what we want to see. We don't really want to see things get that exuberant, and sentiment to go like off the rails in terms of, the speculation. But it's the same thing with the Qs, but the Qs got a little bit more extended. Notice where we kind of came right back in, where price touched right into that 5-day moving average. So we didn't even get down to the top of value. Could that still happen? Could we get one more inside day of this green bar? It's possible, or even a test into the top of value. Perfectly fine. And that's where patience and, having a little bit of control of your emotions too in this game too, helps a little bit. But, the valuers give you what we refer to them as having a roadmap of being able to make clean and concise decisions, right? And that's what we've got going on. Let me get to IWM, because S&P and the Qs are pretty straightforward. IWM, it's, and I know based on those 13F filings, we saw a couple, large players get long, say that they got long the small caps. How do you know where they got long, right? I mean, was it, if they got long back in here, they may have already been out of the position, right? So these 13Fs are really, they're interesting, but they're also kind of dumb for people to follow, because some of these are traders, right? And they will be very quick. Stan Druckenmiller for a while, like I really admire him, and I try to basically do some things that he does, which is be able to change your mind once you have new information, right? I never stay anchored to it's nice to have conviction, but you've got to change when the facts change. And he does that quite a bit. In fact, sometimes when he's on TV, he's pretty darn negative. And I think that's also because he's always worrying about the risk, right, of what could go wrong and what do I have to worry about. But he could be in and out of something so quickly. So this 13 Fs, I would never really make a decision based on that, because it's stale information. But and with this IWM, listen, if you can get excited about this, or if you can find something that really gets you excited about this, more power to you, because I just see like this is very difficult in terms of a trend trader, right? Because you go up, then you go down, you go up, you go all the way, and it's like kind of a game of pitfall, right? It's not a very clear and neat trend. We talk about that, and I'm going to show you a chart of Chipotle in a minute, where it's just nice and clean and methodical. This has got pitfalls, right? And then comes up a little bit. But even when you kind of zoom out, right, and look at the weekly chart, right, sideways, 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 break higher, a little bit farther break than you usually like to see, and so far a lower high. It's just a really difficult chart. Now, what do we like as traders, right? We want easy things. We don't want difficult things. And I get it. There's a lot of folks out there, and I'm not saying anything bad about retail traders, but they seem to want to try to find the most difficult thing out there, right? They think that they can solve a really difficult puzzle. We're not in it for that. We want easy, nice trades, right? We don't want difficult things, right? If you want difficult things, go get one of those jigsaw puzzles, 10,000 pieces, right? That's fun. You could do that on you know, on a weekend where the weather's bad. But in terms of traders, we want easy defined setups, right? Nice uptrends. We don't want to go after things in downtrends or you know, a fairly sideways looking chart. All right, so I spent probably too much time going over that, but it's Friday and I do get off track quite a bit. So let's talk about the move in the miners. And first of all, like before, or the base, the silver and the gold, the precious metals is the word that I'm looking for. First of all, I wanted to just bring this chart up. This is base metals, right? So this kind of looks at all of them together. This looks at copper. I think zinc is in here too. But you could see like the trend has been pretty nice since this broke the value area. Also, if you want to look at this in terms of the XME metals and mining, right? I own this. This is in the TTG trend portfolio, and it's a little bit slower, but I don't mind going a little bit slower with something like this, because I'm not a big, you know, precious metal investor. It's not on the top of my list. For some people who can trade the silver miners and silver and have a great feel for that, that's awesome. You know, great job. But for me, the precious metals are a little bit secondary for me. So I thought that what was interesting here, as I get to find the silver metal, I mean, this is a really nice move. You know, retest here, we started to kind of come back up here, and then a nice move. And that's the weekly chart. The daily chart, which will show you the value area for the month, this has been outperforming gold, and what, you know, a heck of a move here, breaking out to the upside like that. So very nice. So I think these trends are intact. I'm not really going to say too much more than that, other than, you know, you've got a really nice move. Next virgin point of control, if this wants to continue to rage like this, would be $34. And you know, that's a real nice move. We can look at gold too. We'll just look at GLD rather than the futures, but this made a new high today too. So it, you know, remember I had talked about this on Twitter, and I talked about how how the turn was coming, and you know, the breaking over the 50-day moving average. And so I did not play this in my trading account, other than I have a position on a Newmont Gold. But you know, that turn was really successful. That started the bullish 80% rule, and that got completed today, and it actually, you know, jumped over the value area. So that's new highs, and you can't really complain too much about new highs. So very nice. A lot of trends look really good in this space. And you know, we'll see how it kind of continues next week. And again, you know, the way that I've been playing this, and you know, I understand that there's a lot of traders who went from full-time to part-time because they went back to work, and it's tough to kind of capture, or it's tough for them to have a lot of time to trade during the day. It's one of the biggest complaints that I get from traders, is that they don't have enough time to trade. We've got a portfolio for that. We've got a portfolio right now. It's about 50 names. It's called the TTG trend portfolio, and we added gold, and we added XME, and a few other things in there too, you know, that will do well with a commodity move. So we've got some nice exposure to that, and you know, have been on our toes about, you know, making sure that we're in some of these some trending areas of the market, which kind of brings us to the next thing that performed fairly well today, which is Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin, right, make sure I've got the right one up here. It kind of stalled out a little bit today, but ultimately it's the first day back above the 50-day moving average. And note that the bullish 80% rule is also in effect here. I got a couple questions about what the 80% rule is when you're using value area. So first of all, it's only one pass through the value area, right? So I had a question about, like, with the S&P above the value area, and it already made a pass through, and somebody said, hey, well, won't it, you know, if it breaks back in, won't that give you another, this will be the bearish 80% rule? No, it doesn't work that way. It's only one pass, right? And also, if you open up inside the value area for the month, right? In this case, we're looking at the daily chart, so this value areas for the month. If you open up inside, the price opens up inside the range like this, there's no 80% rule. It's only when you start above or when you start below like this, and you break into the value area and firmly establish yourself inside the value area, then it does trigger the 80% rule. Another thing to remember too, it's not 100% rule, and there's nothing 100% in trading, by the way. But this goes back to just old school value area studies. You could Google value area 80% rule. Whenever there's like I always I get questions about all different types of things. Somebody asked me a question about some other economic principle, and the first thing that you should do, and of course you could ask the person who you heard it from Twitter too, maybe they'll have the time to respond to you, but there is this thing called Google, right? And you could Google any financial term and you'll be able to get like a wealth of information. It doesn't really take that. You don't need to do AI, or you don't need to do anything fancy like that. Sometimes I forget rules. I talked about the McClellan summation index, NICE, right? All you have to do is Google that, and you'll be able to get the definition and more than you want in a matter of 2 minutes. So it's such a it is such a good resource to be able to get any financial term, any indicator, any rule. You should be able to Google it, and you should be able to get that information within seconds, right? And then within 2 minutes, you should be able to get an understanding of it. And of course, if you want to research things further, you could do that. But I don't know. Sorry to again, like I said on Fridays, I do this type of a thing. All right. So I mentioned so that's Bitcoin. What do I want to talk about next? Maybe Nvidia, which I went over yesterday, but I know it's such a widely follow the chart. Listen, I got rid of my Nvidia position too. I just didn't like the weakness. My plan, as I mentioned, like you just have to adjust to new information, but was to see this thing just continue to break and break higher. But if it's not Nvidia and you're looking at this chart, you're probably undecided, because it stopped right at these previous highs, and maybe it is waiting for its earnings report. My idea was for a run into the earnings report and to hold it into that. But if it's going to do something like this, which today really, and again, it's options expiration, so that may have something to do with it, and I may try again next week. But it really, to be down as much as it was today, isn't the best sign. Down 2% where the Qs are flat today. So, and kind of giving this back. So again, it may need that. It may be because it's got maybe because the people do want to wait for the earnings report. I like this Broadcom. I did start a position the other day in Broadcom. I was able to take one target. I think yesterday morning I got lucky with that, and then today I added back that target. To retest into the top of value. So this I don't mind. Like this looks more constructive to me because it's just 2 inside days off of that nice move from Wednesday. All right, so that's a little bit about the. We could look at the overall semi ETF too. This kind of looks like the Nvidia chart, similar to it. Not surprising because it's a big stock in the semi group. All right, I mentioned Chipotle, and I alluded to the that this is nice and methodical, right? So this is the type of thing. Now, this is the only problem with this is it's a very high price stock. But I mentioned as traders, we want easy things, right? We don't want difficult setups and to try to solve a really difficult puzzle. It should jump out off the page with you. To me, this jumps off the page to me because the 20-day moving average. Look at how well the price action has held this. So this is another check back to the 20-day moving average, right? And you just go long versus the 20-day, right? You don't have to think really much more else about anything else, right? But just know that this is a valid setup until it breaks that 20-day moving average, right? So that's pretty interesting. Of course, this video also, we want to review the week. The Chinese Internet Group did have the best performance, and this is another positive week. Very interesting. Like all of these finished very close with one another. SPY was up 1.7%. The diamonds were up 1.2. Small caps were up 1.9. Qs were up 2. Qs had the outperformance of 2.2%. And international areas did quite well too. Bonds rallied this week. Gold, we already went over. The dollar was down this week. Big move by Bitcoin, up 10%. And value growth slightly outperformed value this week, right? And your performers, we talked about I did not talk about the Chinese internet group, but you know, I continue to kind of, again, if you're a regular viewer, you know that I've been long PDD for a while. I'll take this name off before it reports earnings, but nice move. BABA has been getting a lot of attention. BABA kind of ran into a little bit of resistance. I think that ran into a 1 hour virgin point of control. At least I thought it did. Maybe it didn't, but I thought I saw. But regardless, they didn't close on the absolute highs, but still gave you a nice gain for the day. All right, and biotech actually was up 3.4%. I want to look at this chart really quickly. You know, biotech has been a little bit sketchy. It did not have a good day today, but from where it started, I guess last week, for where it started this week, still had a decent week. Again, did not close above the value area for the month, so I'm not sure. I need to see a little bit more from this from that group, but nevertheless, still up for the week. Tech finished up 3%. Steel up 2.4%. Nice move there, and some energy was actually, with the help of today's price action, did okay. What didn't perform well? Interesting, like, you know, so the home builders were all over the place. They had a really strong day on Wednesday, but then were weak thereafter, especially weak yesterday. Agriculture finished down for the week. Transports, which have been showing relative weakness, down. And interesting, the industrials in there too finished down for the week, right? So, you know, not coming back to that leadership that we saw for, you know, a good portion earlier in the year and some of last year too. International, China did, along with the Chinese internet names, the FXI ETF did very well, up over 5.6%. And you know, another area that I've been long EEM, FXI, and PDD. And you know, here's what the emerging market ETF looks like, right? Don't get that much. It doesn't get that much attention. It used to, right? EEM was used to be all the talk, you know, back in the day. But it's more China seems to be dominating that. But I'll tell you, there's nothing wrong with this chart that's going on here in EEM, emerging markets, and that's new highs for this year and for last year. Now, of course, it's still decently below, but you know, those previous highs. But this is a nice base and a break higher. So I remain long this, and I've got some options on too that have been doing well. I think I'm up 74% in my long. What am I? I think of September calls on September calls in EEM. So that's it. I think I've kind of went on enough for the end of week video. You should be getting to some bigger and better things for the weekend. And thank you guys for joining me for the end of week video. And again, please make sure you sign up to be in the trading room, and this way you get you'll get those end of day videos as well as access to our trading room. Have a great night and weekend, everybody.